it turns out often the best run companies have the hardest time growing.
Yeah, I'd read that. That was really interesting.
Because the running a company is process, procedure, metrics, management, repeatable results. And where growing a company is looking out what's happening in the marketplace. Where's the marketplace going? Then how do we bring that back? But if you look at the economists, we should be in for a really good 25. Now, depending on your industry, you may be leading that or you might be
Yeah.
lagging that. But boy, now is the time to start planning. If the market takes off, am I ready to go? And when it takes off, it's going to take off different than the last time.
My guest today is Art Saxby. Art is the founder and CEO of Chief Outsiders, a company that specializes in fractional leadership solutions. His team consists of battle-tested marketing and sales executives whose primary mission is to help businesses reignite growth. Art's also the author of Growth Gears. He's widely recognized as an innovator, a problem solver for small and mid-sized companies, and is a born nomad. In this episode, we're going to dive into the strategies for recapturing growth, explore the 3 essential growth gears that every CEO and business owner should know about, and discuss how to prepare for what's on the horizon. Art, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Gene.
It's a pleasure. Art, I'm curious, where did the born nomad description come from?
My father was very adventurous. So when I was born, I was the second child. My brother's about a year and a half older than I was. So when we were 6 months old, he decided to move the family from Chicago to Geneva, Switzerland to look for a job.
Okay.
We moved in with his sister who was, living there at the time. And from that, we ended up moving to several different countries back and forth across the Atlantic. So the idea of stepping into a new situation, uncomfortable situation, figuring it out, deciding, what you're going to do. I moved many, many times before I ended up in high school and college. And that skill set and actually the lack of fear, there's always some fear involved, but, being able to say, okay, let's take this as a new adventure. Let's jump into something new. New is good. New is interesting. Many people, they don't want to rock the boat. They want to sit back. From 6 months old, I was having to adapt to new situations. So I'm very comfortable in unstructured environments, very comfortable with taking on something, brand new, like being an entrepreneur.
I don't know if I mentioned this to you at the beginning, but I'm sitting in Zurich, Switzerland at the moment. So I actually don't know if we talked about that, but so currently living in Zurich. But I love what you're saying there. That ability to dial into different cultures, I think, is so important these days.
Yep.
Just be able to have the perspective and be able to dial into those different cultures.
And to feel comfortable in uncomfortable situations, be comfortable with change, to be able to look and say, you know what, I see an opportunity. It's going to be different. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
And understand, I came up through corporate world. I was with Frito-Lay, Kellogg's, Coca-Cola, big corporate structures. I didn't start a company till I was age 50. So I wasn't the early entrepreneur. But even in those companies, I was comfortable with not being the centerpiece, like the off brands, the other things.
What led you to see? You were 50 when you started Chief Outsiders. Is that?
Yep.
What led you to starting Chief Outsiders?
Well, if I moved from the large corporate world to actually doing bankruptcy turnarounds, because I found you could take the strategic leadership side of marketing, not the cool creative stuff. And at Coca-Cola, I was never able to double the size of the company.
Yeah.
But if you applied that to a mid-sized company, how do you base a company and lead a company based on the market dynamics? With a mid-sized company, boy, can you make a change. And I got pulled into some bankrupt companies, publicly traded, private equity controlled NASDAQ companies that were bankrupt. And I found, boy, I can really make a difference. Well, I got the last company sold in 2008. A year later, 2009, a recession's raging.
Yes.
I'm still unemployed. I've got a freshman in college. I have a junior in high school. My wife doesn't work, so she's gone back to work at the local high school so we could at least get some benefits. I said, if I can't find a job, I'll create one. So necessity was the thing that said, I figured out what I love to do, what I want to do. I can't find a job that has that, so I'll create it.
And I mean, we often think that starting a new business or building a business is something that is done by folks who's younger, but 50 years old, starting what has now become a very successful business. You folks have well over 100 fractional
Yep, about
leaders
130, full-time
across the US.
employees who used to be VP of marketing, VP of sales at large companies.
Maybe just for folks who have sort of tuned in and don't know what the term fractional CMO or fractional marketer means, maybe a little bit about what you folks do and what that term means.
What it allows companies to do is there's many times in stages of a company where the CEO has a vision. They're ready to go, or there's something that's happened and the organization needs to react or go for it. But the organization doesn't have the capability to do that. They haven't done it before. It can be very, very difficult for that organization to attract. Let's say if you're a software company, can you hire the VP of marketing from SAP? Probably not. Really expensive. And even if they helped you with your new strategy, they'd be way overpaid and bored after a year. So
Yeah.
my people have all had roles like that. What they do, they go in and they act as a part-time member of the senior leadership team to help develop and create the strategy. See, if they're not getting sucked into the day-to-day fire drills, they don't need to be there every day, all day. But it's better for them to be part of the leadership team over the next 6 to 12 months to develop the plan that's really right for that company and then hands-on get it going. That's way better than trying to develop a strategy and sell someone a deck. So my people will be on the leadership team of 2 or 3 companies at once, hands-on developing the strategy, building an engine for growth, get it going, and then they can hand it off to the organization to run it once it's there. Those companies don't need that level of expertise forever, but there's
Yeah.
times when they really need someone who's been there and done that. Big changes in the sales structure, big changes in the way the buyers are buying, new market launches, bigger opportunities.
So there's a few interesting things that you said. The one is the sort of amount of time that a fractional leader is coming into the business. They're part of the senior leadership team. And I saw an interesting question the other day about whether a fractional leader could take responsibility for things like priorities, metrics. At what level does that fractional leader operate best at? And where's the CEO getting the most value from that fractional leader?
It really is. It's an interesting combination of figuring out what people are really, really great at. One of the special powers of our company is we've recognized that everyone who comes to us is different. Now, the resumes all say the same thing, vice president, da, 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 but when you have great people, the thing people love to do the most is often where they add the most value.
Yeah.
Well, in the world of marketing, there's so many different things. No one marketer is great at everything. It turns out everyone's love is a little different. So we'll work with a client to figure out what is it they're trying to do, what's they're trying to solve, and then figure out which of our 130 people would be the right one for
Gotcha.
problem, to take on that. Because if you get a great person and you say, the thing you love to do, that's what I want you to do. You know what happens? They're like, yeah, well, let me have it. So some of our people love the metrics and the numbers and the systems and the lead gen and that. Other people really love the strategy and the positioning of the new product launch or so there's the variety of people. By having 130 full-time employees, not just picking someone off the street, we can actually help them figure out, let's get someone who would just love to do what you need.
Okay. So if a fractional marketer is coming into the business, they could really serve as a member of the senior leadership team to solve more than one sort of specific problem, but to help them find the traction if that company's plateaued out or just lost momentum. And
Absolutely, and that's why having we have fractional chief marketing officers and chief sales officers, because when you come into a company, we'll often find out that the thing they thought was the problem wasn't actually the problem. And that's the difference between if you're acting as part of the CEO staff, you're saying, okay, what's happening with the company and the conversation with the CFO and the CIO and being able to say, you know what, you really need to do this, but it turns out we probably need to fix this first.
Yeah.
Or now that we've got this going, let's
Then
do that. We might have been hired to help develop this launch strategy, and day one figure out, oh my God, you've got your biggest trade show of the year next week. Well, we need all hands on deck to figure out how to do that stuff before we get it done. That's different than the consultant who you're going to talk to. They're going to go away. They're going to come back and sell you a deck.
yeah. And you one of the big challenges I think that you talked about in the book is insights. I think you're talking about that a little. So you've got these three growth gears: insight, strategy, and tactics. And it feels like the question that typically comes up is marketing's not working, can you fix it? Or need some leads, can you fix it?
Yep.
But the strategy component is missing, and the insights component is missing, and those things need to be properly lined up. I'm curious about, I mean, for me, when I first read about your growth gears, it's kind of this magically simple way of approaching things. How do you bring CEOs and leaders back to insights, to getting them to realize how important this is, rather than just let's try and fix it?
It is an interesting challenge, which is one of the reasons for the book. The book is written to CEOs who are operationally focused, who run great companies. It turns out often the best run companies have the hardest time growing.
Yeah, I'd read that. That was really interesting.
Because the running a company is process, procedure, metrics, management, repeatable results. And where growing a company is looking out what's happening in the marketplace. Where's the marketplace going? Then how do we bring that back? But marketing should be a logical, linear process, like operating a company. And it's the same if you're operating a company and you need the widgets to come out looking just like this. You don't stand at the end of the production line and look at the widgets. You do need to. But if there's a change to fix it, you're not fixing the thing that's already come out of the machine. You might have to go back and check your raw materials. You might have to go back and check the way the machine's operating. With marketing and sales, the thing you want coming out of the end is often leads and sales. Well, you have to check to see, are we getting the right leads? Are we getting the right sales? Are we spending the money the most efficiently? It really starts out with, who are you trying to talk to? What products or services do they really want? What are the feature sets they want? Who are you competing against? That's the insight to figure out, okay, this is what we're doing. Now, how is the best way to get in front of them, and then do it? Because if you start by saying, well, we just need more leads, we want to redo the website, you might get a whole lot of leads of people who would never buy the product, or get a whole lot of likes. It's got to be linked. But we also know, again, as working as part of the leadership team, not a consultant doing a thing, that those insights have to deliver activity now. The CMO in the seat has a 6-month honeymoon period. We feel we have a 6 hours. We need to be able to start with insights and quickly say, because we learned this, we need to stop doing this and start doing that. Let's do this stuff right now while we're working towards this, while we're working towards the bigger.
There's kind of 3 barriers to growth in there. There's the systems and the processes. Yep. And you talk about the business where they're really strong at the operation side. And then we've got a market sort of based business, and they're really good at taking input from the market. So those are typically 2 barriers to growth. One is, have you got systems and processes working? The other one is, are you taking input from the market? Yeah. And then the third one is leadership. So I feel you folks are bringing that leadership to bring these things together.
Absolutely, because depending on, and it's the flexible leadership. One of the benefits of this new flexible working environment, it really is the company can pull in the resource that they need right now.
Yeah,
they may need the flexible resource to say, my gosh, our customers are acting differently. These buyers are now 25 years old and they don't even want to talk on the phone anymore. How do we adjust? Okay, once you get that, figure that out, and you do the insights and you do the strategy, now it's time for execution. The person who's really good at that front part may not be the person who's passionate about lead gen and demand gen and the metrics and all of those systems. So the ability to go from flexible resource A to flexible resource B, that's what really gets them there. Because you're going to need to get to a process, a procedure, or repeatable results. Marketing and sales should not be, hey, let's find a really nice guy who's talkative. That'll work. That's
Yeah.
not how you lead a sales organization. And marketing shouldn't be, fluffy, pretty pictures. There should be logical, linear processes to all of it. But you do need to start out with the strategy of what are you trying to accomplish.
Yeah. So I find that, and going back to what you were saying a little bit earlier, just about how so many businesses don't take that input from the market and will sometimes just sort of bury their head in the sand. And I mean, if I think back, I know you spent a little bit of time, I think, with Compaq and
Mm-hmm.
companies like that, so the tech side of things. And there, there was a move to the cloud almost a decade ago that started. And so many companies that just will always be on prem, or it's not going to change. The cloud's not safe, and those companies crash because they weren't taking the feedback back from the market. And I feel like this is one of the big reasons that companies just stall and crash. Or
And it's part of it is because it's difficult. I mean, many companies will say, well, my salespeople are out talking to customers every day. Well, when the salesperson's asking the customer, what do you need? And that buyer knows that there's an order book in the back pocket.
yeah,
They tell the salesperson this, that whoop, the order book's whipped out. Sometimes you need someone unrelated to that to ask questions. Sometimes it helps having someone from a different industry that's seen different changes and how it might apply to this industry. You know, I'm a
yeah,
company with 130 full-time chief marketing officers, chief sales officers. We pay an outside company to do win-loss analysis for us.
I love that. So
We,
as a marketing and sales company, you folks are going externally
yeah, we
to
pay a company to
internal.
call some of our clients and say, why did you buy from them? And some of the
Yeah,
companies that didn't buy from us and say, why didn't you buy from them? Yes, we could call, but we're going to get a different answer. Also, even if we got the same answer, I'm going to hear it differently than this outside company because I've internalized our value prop. I know our value prop. And you hear things differently. It's the same reason that if a CEO is challenged with their leadership team, yes, you need open communications, but sometimes it's better to get an external group in. I'm a member of Vistage. I
yes.
three of the other CEOs of my Vistage group call and interview my senior leadership team. The things they told them were the same things they told me, but the other Vistage members heard them differently.
Yeah, we do, don't we?
We do hear it differently.
We kind of hear what we want to hear sometimes as well, which is it's part of the challenge. I think just going back again as well to launching new products and the statement you made about it's got to be what the customer wants, and
Yeah.
we miss the soft. And there's so many startup or businesses that come up with opportunistic sort of ideas or products, and they don't do that insight work and they don't do the strategy work. They just let's go and build it, and then they wonder why it's not selling. And
And sometimes it is the thing needs to change.
yeah,
Sometimes it's how you're selling needs to change. I mean, we're going through crazy cycles in technology. We're going through crazy cycles in the economy. You can have a product that is really, really great, and you've been selling it on, we're here to help you scale and grow. We're here to help you scale and grow. And all of a sudden the client goes, not interested, not renewing.
yeah,
Well, because that client's not worried about scaling and growing right now. They're worried about, cost control and management and help us deal with that. It could be your product is really good for that, but if you weren't getting the insights from the marketplace, you didn't know you need to shift your messaging. You need to know that, hey, we really, we deliver the best, highest quality products. Yes. But now what matters is the just-in-time inventory. Now
yeah,
what matters to this client is the ability to control their cost of goods and how much capital is tied up in inventory. There's things you can adjust the product you're selling, the way you're selling it, adjust the thing you're doing by matching the changing needs of the customer. Sometimes you do need to change the product. Sometimes it is more the approach to the product.
yeah, yeah. That's very, very true. Makes a lot of sense. And just sort of thinking about so we've got these three gears. We've got insights, we've got strategy, and we've got execution. And the missing part for all of that is very often pulling the data in, which you folks in your business are even going externally to do it. How do you? I'm thinking a lot of CEOs and business owners struggle with the idea of spending time on strategy and pulling information from the market. How do you kind of make that process a little bit more efficient? So, in the scenario where they are worried about costs at the moment and what's going on and how to survive, even how do you bring them back to getting those insights and get them feeling comfortable about doing that?
It is a challenge, but it's one of the most valuable things we can bring, because if you've got someone who's really, really good on your staff and they've worked for you for the last 10 years, they have seen one set of problems and heard one set of things for 10 years.
Yeah.
We're able to bring someone that's worked in 10 different industries over the last 3 years, who's done this multiple times. That's the part of the business they like. That's a different person that really likes the lead gen, demand gen thing.
Yeah.
So we're able to more quickly get to an answer because there are ways to do it. You don't just wander out there and go, hey, what do you got? There are processes, there are procedures, there's tools. AI is an amazing thing, and I don't want to distract and say everything's the answer is AI, but oh my gosh, if you know how to use those tools well, wow, are they fantastic. But then you still have to interpret the results. Well, if you're interpreting the results based on your experience in your company for the last 10 years, that's different than someone interpreting the results who's seen changes in 5 different industries, 10 different companies. So we can get to the insights and the meaning of the insights much, much faster because we're in a much, much quicker do loop cycle of seeing change, seeing change, seeing change. Oh my God, I was in a peer review last week on an industrial manufacturing company. I can totally see how that helps my healthcare company right now in this problem. That broader view of, 2,000 engagements that we've done, the company can come together and aid a company because they'll get insights from outside their industry, from outside what everyone else is looking at.
Yeah, I love that. It's almost going back to what we were talking about with that nomad perspective, having had different perspectives and being able to tune into cultures in the same way that sort of exposure that those different fractional CMOs have had helps him to very quickly tune in and look at things from a different perspective,
Yep.
but to come up with solutions a lot faster.
And many times the insights are there. They're in the company.
Yeah.
And much of the insight gathering is talking to the leadership team, talking to the salespeople, talking to your current customers. But it doesn't have to be this big go out and do the big blah, 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 blah thing. But it's asking the questions in a way that gets information that allows you to hear them differently and then feed it back to the organization. And when you're able to provide some insights to a company and everyone in the group goes, well, yeah, absolutely. But we never thought of it that way. That's the magic.
So very often that magic is sitting inside the company. It just somebody who's coming in from the outside can open it up and bring it out faster, but it's already kind of in there. It's almost mining for it and bringing the gems out from what's already kind of in.
Yeah. The name of our company, Chief Outsiders, we're C-level executives, but we bring an outside perspective into the senior leadership team. It's having that outsider who does act as part of your team, but can ask questions, sometimes the difficult questions that you don't want to ask each other, but then hear the responses differently.
Yeah. I always wondered where the name Chief Outsiders came from. So makes a lot of sense now. You have a very interesting take on the role of I suppose just reading the book of this marketing and the role of marketing in the company. And if I remember right, it's the whole company's got to be focused on marketing. And I love the way I think you talked about if a CEO turns to the operational director and says operational CEO, what are you doing in marketing? That person should be able to answer it. So
yeah,
I'm curious about how you think about it, because it's bigger than just the marketing director.
The marketing and sales, because marketing and sales have become, while they're different skill sets, they're so intertwined. It's really all about growth. And it's the companies that really, really work well are when you can go to, the operations person and say, what's your role in the marketing and sales strategy? And they can say, well, I know we're going after these types of customers because they care about this stuff. So we have to make sure that we're getting this, and this right. That's the win. When you go to accounting and you say, what's your role in this? They say, well, we know we're going after this type of customer and the way they want to be acted with. And so we'll make sure that our accounting systems, the way we bill, invoice, whatever, are aligned with getting, it's aligning the organization on where the organization wants to go. And you determine where you want to go based on which need of the marketplace are you most likely to profitably, leverage. It's one thing to say we've got this stuff and we're going to push it out there.
Yeah.
It's much better to say we've identified these customers have these needs and we're filling them. And it's when the organization, if operations is upset because sales keeps changing the spec, that's a problem. If operations understands sales is going to keep changing specs because the market keeps changing, then operation knows, well, we need to build a little different model over here because we
We've
got
got
to
that
be
utility
flexible.
in our model.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
when operations says we're changing the way we're doing production planning because we know we're going to need to be flexible. Now operations understands their role in the sales and marketing strategy.
I recall you writing about maybe in the CEO of was it Imperial Sugar, um, sending out a weekly email with the communication to get this, to drive this message home of
Yep.
how important it is that the whole company understands that vision. And did that help get everybody aligned? Because this is often a problem. I heard it on actually a small giants event we did recently, where the owner's struggling to get the sales and marketing team to buy into the new strategy.
Mhm.
That repetition is so important, and you obviously saw the difference with that in
Yeah,
Imperial.
absolutely. And it's the combination of repetition because we need to be reminded. You've got really good people, they're doing a job, and their job is to do their job, so they're head down doing their job. But you also do need to help them look up and see, where are we going? And
Yeah,
it's the repetition of here's where we're going and why. Here's where we're going and why. There's very few people in my organization who really get behind if the whole strategy was Art wants a big yacht. Now we've got to get to work because Art wants a big yacht. That's not very motivating. If the annual plan is we want these fours to turn into sixes, that's not very motivating. But if the organization says we're here because we're trying to build a company and a culture that allows us to do the best work of our career, surrounded by people we love to learn from, okay, that's worth working towards. That's worth working towards. Now, what do we have to do? Oh, if we're going to get this, we're going to have to change this. If we're going to have this, we're going to have to adjust this. If we want to be in an organization where we're helping each other do the best work of our career, I'm willing to do some of this over here and be uncomfortable that that's the way I used to do it. I'm going to do it differently because I want that.
when you set off on your mission to create chief outsiders, w- was that kind of sense of purpose that you're talking about there, and is it still burning bright in you? I'm curious to know.
I learned so much about it along the process. It did start out with, you know, literally being unemployed for a year and saying, but damn it, I had a lot of value. Well, let's take it apart. What value do you add? Who's going to appreciate that value? Who's willing to pay for that value? What are the obstacles to them, getting that value? So it started out with, I have tremendous value and I know what I love to do. How can I change what I do, get that to market? Then once it started and, selling someone on investing in growth in 2009 in the middle of this recession when no one's ever heard of fractional before wasn't particularly easy.
No,
But,
can imagine.
that mantra of, okay, if I can do this, this will be really great because it'll allow me to do what I do best. You know, that stayed through and that became part of the culture. Then learning the value of a culture and the value, was a tremendous learning along the way. I worked for some amazing companies. Kellogg's is an amazing organization. Coca-Cola is, and Frito-Lay. Their cultures were very, very different, and I was part of them, but I never really looked at them. I never really said how. Once it was myself and we were trying to figure it out, I said, boy, if I can get people to think and act like this will really, really work. So then it became a strategy. Culture
Yeah,
became a strategy that would deliver the business results we wanted.
because again, so many business owners don't see the value in that sort of in culture, in core values, in this, in purpose driven, being more purposeful. It is potentially about new cars, new yachts, whatever those things are, rather than something that is of greater purpose that's going to attract fabulous people and create an amazing place to work. So yeah,
The thing that I often say is we've all heard the culture eats strategy for breakfast.
yes,
Right. All right. What did they used to tell us was the most important meal of the day?
breakfast.
Breakfast. Our breakfast, our strategy feeds our culture. We didn't develop a culture of, hey, let's be giddy and happy. A giddy and happy culture where everyone's playing pranks on each other would be really, really cool. If you're the Center for Disease Control, you don't want your people giddy and happy and playing pranks on each other. They're dealing with Ebola.
Yeah,
You have to say, what's the business strategy? And then now, if I can develop a culture that will help implement that strategy, that's worth investing in.
and that's one of the primary jobs then of the CEO is
Yeah.
building that culture.
Yeah. And the culture shouldn't just be, oh, we're going to be nice to the planet and we're going to be happy and we're going to respect each other. Okay. Yeah. You need to be respecting each other, but your culture, you need to be able to look at your culture and say, here's my business strategy and here's the elements of my culture that drive and support it. If that's there, okay, now it's worth investing money in the culture. If you're just investing money in the culture because happy people are more productive and let's have free Coca-Colas or pool table, I can see why CEOs, I sure wouldn't, I wouldn't
Yeah,
invest in that.
it doesn't make, and so many CEOs are, it's this nebulous thing. Do we really want to be focusing on this? But
Yeah.
I think you're right. If you know what the strategy is and you're clear on where the business is going, then finding the right people to get you there, to get the right people into the business and to build the culture that supports that is so
And to
important.
me, that's the real value of a purpose-driven company. That purpose doesn't have to be save the whales. You
Yeah,
know, our purpose, our mission statement, make big things happen by building a company and a culture that attracts the world's greatest operational sales and marketing executives because we help each other do the best work of our career, surrounded by people we love to learn from. You know, our purpose is having an environment where we get to do what we love to do, surrounded by people who we love to learn from. And the result is our clients get great things. That's motivating to people. That pulls people in. That keeps people. Now, it does happen that we're primarily targeted on small, mid-sized businesses. And those are the businesses that run this country. Those are the businesses that employ most of the people in this country. Those are the entrepreneurs and the people willing to risk their lives to go do this stuff. That's really great. But so it doesn't have to be earth friendly to be purpose driven. It's great when there are, and but you can have a purpose driven culture that even if you're making chemicals, even if you're writing software.
yeah. I worked with a brake fluid company not so long ago who moved was basically um, behind the scenes for many of the biggest brands in the world, but their whole core purpose was stopping the world safely, and everything they were doing every day was around stopping the world safely. It's not a very sexy industry, but that's what they got up to do every day. And
Mhm.
yeah, having that sense of purpose. I'm also curious. You said earlier you're taking input into your business. What's changing in the sort of world of fractional leadership at the moment that you folks are looking at, and how's your business evolving?
It's it's amazingly exciting. Our vision starting out, this unemployed guy with kid in college and one in high school. I said I had $100 million big hairy audacious goal. And I
Okay.
said, this can, we're going to go at this. I like big, hairy, audacious goals because it gets your eyes up out of the day to day and says, what's out there?
Yeah.
Then what do we prioritize? How do we get there? The big, hairy, audacious goal is now over $1 billion. And it's to be the world's leader in flexible operational resources. You see, it used to be to run a company, you needed to own all of your resources. Everyone who was really going to be delivering for your company had to work in your building, live in your town. Yes, you had an external, CPA firm, you might have a marketing agency, this, that, but everyone else who was really going to deliver, you had to own. Well, one is the world in technology and change is moving so fast, where if someone's sitting in that seat for 2, 3 years, is going to get left behind.
Yeah.
There's no way you can keep up with all of the changes. There's the idea of the flexible work environment is like, oh my gosh, they don't actually have to live here. They could live on a beach in Florida and work for my company in Des Moines, and that means I have access to all of the resources in the country, maybe the world, not just the people who are willing to move to Des Moines. And the fact that there's people even of my generation who are looking at these young kids going, why don't I get what they get? Why don't I get training? Why don't I feel good about my life? Why don't I have the flexibility? So companies now have the opportunity where there's some of the assets where they absolutely need to own, but there's other assets that they can rent because they're going to need something different now than they will 2 years from now. They're going to need, first we got to fix the marketing, then we have to fix the sales, then we've
Yes.
got to go back and do this. Those are different resources. And then the fact that technology is moving so quick, we're making big investments in AI because it speeds the information gathering so much. It doesn't do the job for you, but if you've done it right, if you've got the right systems and places and protections and that, boy, it can get you, 60% of the way through a SWAT in a blink of the eye. Now you add your expertise to say,
Yeah.
well, how do we do this? How do we refine it? What's meaningful to the company? You don't just take an AI thing and go, here's the answer, but boy, can it get you through an awful lot of that information gathering quickly. So it speeds the run to outcome. We can get to delivering outcomes for our clients so much faster because so much of the insight phase we can use technology to start, and then add our expertise.
I love that. I want to get into that moment. I just want to go back to your BHAG for a sec. So you start off and you have this mission that you're on. You've got your North Star and you've got your BHAG, and you've got to a point where, to a large extent, you've probably got to the peak of that first BHAG potentially. You've now looked at your next BHAG, and I think this is a problem with a lot of companies where they kind of go on a mission to solve a problem, and then we were talking about cloud earlier. They kind of plateau out because they haven't looked at what's going to happen next.
Yep.
And I feel like if you were describing, you folks now have this next kind of, that's what our next mission is. You're stacking your BHAGs.
Yeah. And we haven't reached the 100 million, but we
Yeah.
got to the point where we said, oh, look, that's starting to be an operational plan. We're having to look at what systems and processes do we put in so that we could run a company of that size. And that's when we said, okay, let's go. Now, of the many mantras, I mean, I love talking about business. Focus. Focus
Yes.
is a magical word. I tell any CEO out there, focus.
Yes.
So the idea of the BHAG is to say, what's out there? Now, we've identified all the stuff that's out there. And this $1 billion BHAG is really big and broad. We're going to focus on this first, this, and this, because we got to get this done really right. Most organizations can only do a couple of things really right. And if you've done the work of the BHAG, when somebody goes, well, hey, how about this? You go, yeah, that's part of it. Not yet. Yeah, that's part of it. Not yet. But it does pull you up from incrementalizing what do we have to what do we have to what do we have to go, no. We want to get here.
So we know where we're going, but let's get insanely focused on what we achieve right now, this quarter, this year.
To get there. Yeah.
To get there, because otherwise, as entrepreneurs and CEOs, we do have that kind of shiny object syndrome or opportunistic. Let's go over there and do that. Let's go over there and do that.
Yeah.
We need to keep focused. It's more about saying no and keeping focus on what the priorities are right now. I love that. Yeah, so true.
And when you look far enough ahead, you look and you go, okay, that's different enough where I'm going to need to do something different to get there.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get there by just doing the same. That's when you say, all right, maybe we should relook at our sales organization. Maybe we should relook at our sales. Maybe we should relook at the marketing. Maybe we should relook at our product portfolio. Maybe we need to relook at our distribution systems.
So we've taken our insights. We're now designing that strategy on what we need to change and what the priorities around those and how we need to evolve those. And then we start executing.
Then you start the execution. Yeah.
So
we're running businesses, so we need to be executing today while we're working on the strategy, while we're doing the insights. If it was easy, everyone would do it.
I love about talking to you, and I know we're talking about a marketing business and fractional marketing, but as a CEO, listening to you speak and the passion that's coming through from you, you can feel that this is where we're going. I imagine that you talk about it to your people, to your team all the time, and they will know where the business is going and the mission that we're on.
And people people want to be part of a successful company. They want to be part of a growing company. Now,
Yeah.
change is uncomfortable, and like I said, this isn't easy. None of this is easy. But if you're able to set that, I used to call it destination planning, destination casting. I'd cast this destination out, this vision casting, and say, wouldn't this vision be great? Wouldn't it be great if we could be here? Then you say, well, there's a plan to get here. Do you think that plan would work? Okay, now what's your role in getting there? Would your job be great if we help get there?
Yeah.
There's a bunch of tools we use, whether it's here to there, or staying here is not acceptable. We have to agree to that. What's the there look like? Wow, that's good. Okay, now let's do the hard work in the middle.
So, what's some of the advice you're giving to business owners and CEOs at the moment who've kind of hit that plateau, who are trying to reignite the business? What what's important to be talking to them about right now? What are some of the things I'm curious about? How you're trying to get them to reignite things? Do you?
It's to me, and the way I look at things, it's got to be market based. You've got to be looking out, what is the market, what do they care about, where is it going, and then how can I profitably leverage that.
Yeah.
So it's an external viewpoint. It's also, you've got to have people that you can discuss and debate with. You've got to have people with different perspectives. You've got to be able to say, I think this, and have people discuss and debate. If the CEO is the only one thinking about where does the company go next, that's hard. But
That's weird.
so you
That's where
need
sort
to,
of no, where Vistage and that's those sort of CEO groups come in. So how do I as a CEO find people who I can surround myself with and have these conversations about what's going on out there and test my thinking?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Vistage. I've been this is my 10-year award of Vistage back there.
Congratulations.
So and that's several years old.
Yeah.
So Vistage, and there's many other organizations. C12 is a version like Vistage for Christian. Pete Hayes, my
Yeah.
number two, is a big, very, very involved in C12. Anytime you can get other people who can add to your thinking and allow other people to improve your thinking,
Such a good point.
that's key. And there's of my Vistage group, there's one other person who's in the marketing field, but I learn a lot from the people in the home building industry and the manufacturing industry, and they're very, very different companies. The problems CEOs face are very, very similar. And then just bring in other people. This is where an outside expert like a one of our chief sales officers who's worked for a really big tech company can say, your situation's different, but there's some similarities. How can we act differently? So bringing in some outside resources is often what you need to jumpstart that thinking.
Going back to the conversation about AI then, and how you folks are leveraging that in the business to accelerate. I think you said it's taking minutes to do a SWOT as opposed to the way we used to do in the old days was get into a room and spend a day doing the SWOT.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm really curious about, or I think about, is even though AI has helped us to accelerate things, they're still kind of getting the work done. And I feel like that's where a lot of CEOs are still getting themselves tied up. And it goes back to resources. What are the insights we take, and what's the strategy? Now we've got to execute, but have we got the resources? Are we actually going to buckle down and get this stuff down? Or are we going to spend the year going around the block and get back to this thing and we just haven't moved forward? And how are you helping them, the folks that you work with, to actually get the work done?
It's a question of what's the resource you need now, and is that a resource you're going to need forever, or is this a temporary resource?
Yeah.
Because if we've developed the strategy and there's going to be resources, a lot of our people are doing a lot of the hands-on making it happen. We're not just selling a strategy deck. We're being part of it. But often that does mean you're going to need more project manager level people. You're going to need writers. You're going to need that. So we've got the resources to bring those to bear, because selling someone the world's greatest strategy deck doesn't create any value.
Yeah.
The value is by bringing it to life in the organization, in the marketplace. Again, that's the difference between a consultant and someone acting as a part-time member of your leadership team, responsible for getting this stuff done. That's the magic. And again, in the old environment, you had to go hire someone, maybe move them into your town, promise them that their kid's going to be able to stay in that school for several years. Now it's like, well, right now we need this expertise because we need to get the systems up and running. We need a new CRM system. We need a new whatever. You use that resource and then put that resource aside and bring in a different resource. That's that flexible operational resources. You don't have to own everything because you probably don't need those skill sets forever. One junior marketing person cannot be expected to know everything, but they can be really, really good in their field.
Yeah, and this, as you said earlier, there are so many ways of accessing talent nowadays. So bring in a fractional marketing director, which we never had in the past, or fractional sales manager. You have folks on the team who are potentially the sort of more permanent folks who maybe in your business are doing what the work that really needs to be done, and they're really good at that. But there are times where we need these specialist skills. And then I suppose there's agencies and all sorts of other support. But rather than looking at it, employing everybody, keep yourself somewhat agile, I guess.
Because imagine you employ a really good person. There's part of the job they really love, but you're asking them to do these other 5 jobs, right? How about if you had 5 people where the part you asked them to do was what they really loved?
I love
and
that.
You had this person, that's what they really love, and this person, that's what they really love.
6 types of geniuses, or sort of
exactly
doing what people really love and are good at. Yeah.
And then I can attract people because I can say, what's the part of the job you really love? Good. My business strategy is to help you do that. I want you to do more of the stuff you love, so we can get really, really good people because this is what they love. They could do that other thing, but that's not what they love. They love this.
Yeah. It's find the folks who love doing what's important and then bring in the extra folks to support you.
Because often the thing they love most is where they add the most value.
Yes.
How do you get the most value out of your employee? Help them do what they love to do.
I love that. Yeah. That's brilliant. What's on the horizon at the moment then? What should CEOs and business owners be looking out for? What are some of the things that we've talked about AI, we've talked about virtual work or the virtual environment. What else is going on that you've kind of got on the radar at the moment that you folks are watching?
The technology thing is definitely a big part of it. But the world will move from, hey, this is really cool. I was able to create a picture of an elephant skiing, yay, to this is a really valid business tool. But you have to know how to make it a valid business tool and do it enough. But that's going to be absolutely amazing. So we're putting a lot of investment in that, to be able to have it part of our structure, how we manage engagements, how we use it. So everyone's not trying to just figure it all out on their own. We're also in for some really interesting economic times. I mean, we're sitting in the, late in the third quarter of 2024 right now. And it's a tough economy out there. It's a tough business out there. There's some industries that are doing well. There's a lot that are not. Inflation's still high. But if you look at the economists, we should be in for a really good 25. Now, depending on your industry, you may be leading that or you might be lagging that. But boy, now is the time to start planning. If the market takes off, am I ready to go? And when it takes off, it's going to take off different than the last time.
I hear you. I think it was listening to Taylor St. Germain. He spoke at a conference that I was at from ITR Economics. And I think you folks have a very close relationship.
ITR.
Yeah, which is so valuable for your customers. But he was talking about how the rest of 24 is going to be soft. The best thing we could be doing right now is preparing the business for growth. Maybe it doesn't shift as quickly as we thought, but going into 2025, 2026, we're going to see strong growth, and it's going to affect different industries differently, but get ready was the next thing.
Because if you wait until the market's going and then you say, let's plan on how we're going to react, you'll have lost it. Where if you can do the planning now and say, we're there, maybe we don't pull the trigger, but we've done the initial planning. We know what to do. We know we've got the sales system in place where if we add 2 people, then it's a go time. or we've got the system in place, we've got two, and we're training because what we know is going to take salespeople a couple of months before they really get their legs. If we're ready to do that market launch, if we're ready to, that's the companies that are going to be able to hit the gas pedal when it's the right time are the ones that are already the car tuned up and fueled up.
I noticed a lot of books on your shelf. What are you reading right now that's interesting you?
It's funny. This is Growth Gears that Pete Hayes and I wrote. Karen Hamer,
Yes,
our managing partner of the West, wrote "Stop Random Acts of Marketing."
I love it. I'm gonna get a hold of that, copy of that.
A tool one of our partners on the West Coast lies, damn lies, and marketing lies. So from a marketing standpoint, but then I've got good to great is something I just
I love it.
if anyone's going to read, only ever read one business
One,
book, good
yeah.
good to great. And then personally, I read sci-fi and fantasy because I want to escape. I love business. I spend a lot of time thinking about business, way too much time thinking about business. So when I'm done with that, I want to just get away and let my mind be free.
And that is so important. We forget to do that sometimes, and we talk about that whole work-life balancing, but it is sort of just finding a bit of balance, not so much a work-life balance, and
Yeah,
making sure you take the time to get different perspectives again and different ideas.
you know.
It's been fantastic talking to you. What about where people get hold of you best? Is it sort of through LinkedIn or email or just Chief Outsiders? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, the best is LinkedIn or cheapoutsiders.com.
Okay.
That's the best. And we love what we're doing. This month we're on the management team of almost 200 companies. Broad variety of industries. Generally, mid-market, 10 million to 300 million. We've got some billion-dollar clients, and we've got some startup stuff. But most of it's that what I think is the mid-sized company, the core of our economy, the people who owned and built companies, the entrepreneurs who said, I'm going to do this, and now I'm ready for the next thing.
I love how passionate you are about that because they are the
Yeah.
gears that drive this whole economy, and they're so important. So thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate you joining and
All
coming
right.
on.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.